Ravenswood, the TV show, sometimes deals with disturbing and problematic topics. We provided a list of content warnings in the episode description. It's also a little spooky.
Yeah, I had to look up. I was like, what do you put for like
Blood, jump scares, things like that.
I need to put those.
Do you? No, I was
no, the content I did more was like teen death, like things around that like sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe I need to because the content warnings, I think I wouldn't have put like jump scares and blood because
There's no actual jump scares and blood in what
it.
we're watching
Yeah.
or what we're saying.
It's about the thematic material. Yeah.
Cool. That makes sense. Yeah, but it's gross.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to Dead Ends. I'm Emily.
I'm Brenton.
And we're going to recap 2 episodes of Ravenswood.
Yeah. I have cooled since last week. I'm not coming in hot.
Oh, good. So I get to stay married to you? I was a little worried when you were like, I like Ravenswood. And I was like,
yeah, like these were
you're
just,
allowed to enjoy it.
These were just don't you dare cross that line.
That was nice, you know.
Well, for here, you may not like the reasons that I'm not enjoying it. Is because it's not. I was like, ooh, the possibility of like kind of like these dark storylines, and it's just like, oh, and now we've drifted into like, are Caleb and Miranda a thing, and Luke being insufferable at every turn, and it's just kind of like, okay, the teen drama here isn't doing it for me.
Yeah, they really flipped the switch on Luke and Olivia. Like at first you're like, okay, Olivia is like naive, and then you're like, no, wait, Luke is crazy.
Luke is, yeah, because it seems like Luke is gonna be the one that's just like, I understand what's going on in this family.
Yeah, because he was originally like, oh, my, like, mom did it. Like, don't you think mom did it? And Olivia was like, no. And then now he's like, I don't want to talk about ghosts. And it's like,
right.
You don't get to pick and choose your horror stories in this film or this show.
Right. He immediately becomes the, I don't want to hear anything negative going on. Shut the blinders. Where Olivia is just like, we gotta go. Press the gas.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, I guess if there's going to be one of them, like, I'd probably prefer Olivia be the one that's pressing the gas. But, like, I don't know. Luke's just being insufferable, though.
Yeah.
He's just annoying.
Mm-hmm.
So, and so it's the interpersonal stuff that's just kind of like, meh, meh. And I think the problem is that this feels like they're extending a, you know what, like one of those like PG-13 horror movies that, you know, were like big when we were in high school. I mean, they're probably still big now. I don't know. I can't say one way or the other, but and they're like stretching it out over 10 episodes. So it's like you get like the 3rd episode, spooky, scary. Like I like that a lot more than the 4th episode, where it's like we're gonna kind of have these like interpersonal things, and there's gonna be some lore implications. But other than that, it's just kind of like divorced from a horror setting.
Yeah, because like episode 3 was like spooky, scary. Like I was like, oh, jump scares. Like I did not enjoy that.
Totally.
And then episode 4, I was like, oh, we could have watched that like late, because I made us, we were watching both episodes the night before, and I was like, this is too spooky. I don't want to watch this and then go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we watched episode 4 today, and I was like, oh, I could have watched that last night, because like nothing really happens.
No, everybody just kind of like, it's just lots of talking and not a lot happening. Well, I mean, there is, but not a lot that I find enticing.
I also don't care about a lot of the characters.
No.
I like Remy. I like Olivia. I like Miranda. I like Caleb. Where's Grundy? I want more Grundy.
I do want more Grundy. Well, I think that just comes back around. It's like I like all 4 except for Luke.
Mm-hmm. But I don't care about Uncle Raymond either. He's boring.
Yeah, they haven't attached.
He's obviously got
anything.
plot significance, but like, did he need to?
Right. I mean, they just haven't caught up to what they're trying to do with him, so he's just kind of like this specter in the back.
Yeah, like, is he the big bad, or is he the red herring of the big bad, or?
Yeah, but otherwise, it's not like fun to check in on him because we've already been suspicious of him from the jump.
Well, and we don't know, like, everything we get for him is so out of context that it doesn't help us fill in the blanks.
No. And it's not surprising to see a mortician sharpening his knife menacingly. You kind of go, yeah.
Well, and those are like the old-timey knives, like not the real ones, you know? So it's like, oh
Right.
yeah, his display knife. He wants to keep it pretty for himself to look at.
Or was it a murder weapon? And you just kind of go, well, I mean, if we're pointing the finger now, I don't really think so.
Yeah.
But
I don't know.
I don't know. But, okay, so it all happened, well, actually, this will be get into later, where I get annoyed at just inconsistencies with characters. And I think you pointing out Luke was one, I feel like that's inconsistent. It's in the 4th episode. It's a minor thing. Doesn't really matter. All right, but we'll get into the recap. I'm like, this isn't the time and place. Time to just get into the recap. Ravenswood, episode 3, Believe. We open on Miranda's body in a casket as Raymond applies makeup. He has scissors in his other hand and cuts off a lock of her hair. Mrs. Grundwalds sets up a picture of Miranda for her wake. I put a man, and then we find out that it's Springer. And I'm like, you gotta start. You really have to put character names on people, because this is killing me. Like,
because we've seen Springer like once or twice before, but like not enough to like really know him.
And he looks like the teacher.
And like Luke, like he keeps moving.
Unfortunately,
and like Dillon, like the boyfriend.
Yes. God, all these white people look the goddamn same.
There's white men.
Also, they had, just for note taking, I mean, no other purpose. Like, as a character, you could just be like Olivia and Luke's mom. But for note taking, it's been driving me nuts that we haven't get any other like name for her. And then in the 4th episode, Raymond calls her Michelle, and I'm like audibly exclaimed, like, thank God. So Springer sets up flowers near the casket. Cut to Caleb getting ready and talking to Miranda in the house. She is looking out the window saying at least there's a good turnout, and she feels like she's like weird, like waiting in between, life and death. Caleb promises they'll figure it out together. Caleb and Miranda arrive at the funeral. Mrs. Grundwalds says Raymond's suit fits him nicely. Luke and Olivia's family arrive, plus Dillon. Their mom sees the spray paint on her husband's tombstone again. She turns around and sees the police sheriff like nod to her. Olivia notices a police officer, and this is a old friend of Luke's. They used to be friends, and she's like, "Oh, do you like you still talk to him or whatever?" And it's like, no, like there's like bad blood, weird blood between them now. His name is Clark, that we find out later. Remy arrives and goes to sit in the back instead of near Luke. Olivia notices a blonde girl standing next to the spray-painted tombstone, but when she tells Luke to look, she's gone. Raymond gives the eulogy to the crowd, and it's short, much to Miranda's chagrin. The coffin is then lowered as Raymond pours dirt on her casket. Miranda freaks out about disappearing forever and tells Caleb not to let go of her. Suddenly, the crows go wild and start circling. Caleb looks up, but when he turns back, Miranda's gone. Luke, Olivia, and Dillon stand around the wake awkwardly. Remy walks up to Caleb and is mad her foster family and friends didn't come. She tells Caleb that we can't keep calling it an accident and maybe there are supposed to be 5 coffins out there. Dillon asks Olivia if they should go, and Olivia's like, it's okay. Like, I'm not too worried. This isn't triggering me. I'm just sad she's gone. Remy talks to Luke. They're both scarred by the incident, and they hold hands subtly. Luke tells her he misses her, and Remy asks him and Olivia to meet her and Caleb later to discuss something. Remy's dad comes in, so Luke leaves, but says he'll be there. Springer is asked by a woman if he knew her. He then starts talking trash on Miranda for no reason. So then Caleb pipes in and says she was beautiful and she liked books and movies that are complex. That
I felt physically uncomfortable watching this.
It's so funny. Caleb's giving this big speech for this person he doesn't know. So then he's just giving these vague responses of she loved stories and she would go to the movies and had friends.
She existed.
She rode buses and cracked wise. Olivia and Luke see the sheriff talking to their mom. They walk up to the police officer, Clark, to get him to leave their mom alone. Clark says they're following up on leads about their dad's death. Olivia says, our mom. He's like, well, I can't not confirm or deny that, but we do have a name for a woman named Abby that they got from your dad's office, and he may have been romantic with her. The sheriff Jen walks off, and Clark says, sorry it was like this. Olivia asks Luke if it was real about their dad having an affair, and Luke doesn't want to believe it. Olivia says, I'll get a ride with Dillon home. We then get cut to Olivia running into a bathroom in Collins Manor is what I'll call it. Crying. She places her face down on the ground near the vent to get some air. As she has her eyes closed, we see a pale hand creep out between the grates, but Dillon knocks at the door, breaking the spell. Caleb picks up a pamphlet from Miranda on the ground. Miranda appears again and says, "You think I'm beautiful."
You make it sound like he's like picks up a pamphlet from Miranda, like he's gonna buy it, like a Miranda, like a pamphlet. Like usually when you get a pamphlet, it's like, you know, like religion, or like someone's trying to like sell you a car or something. It's like a pamphlet.
Have you heard the word?
Yeah, exactly. Scientology and Miranda.
She is with us. And she's like, "You think I'm beautiful?" Because that's one of the things he said. He's like, "She's beautiful and smart." He's happy
she read real books.
He's happy she's back.
Not me. I read fairy smut.
Right. She loved Danielle Steele. And
there'd be nothing wrong if she did. So I don't know why we're talking about real books, Caleb. Can you even read?
I looked at some of the books she left behind, and I was shocked by some of the passages. She is shocked at how well Caleb is handling this, and he laughs it off like, "Could be a brain tumor, IDK." Miranda says, "Something is in this town trying to kill all of you." Caleb says, "Let's go meet Remy." As Caleb leaves through the gate, Miranda can't pass. She's like, "Go on, I'll always find you." The coffee shop appears to be an old bank. This is what I wrote. And then we find out, or it could have been mentioned before, it's called the Vault. Remy discusses with the four her theory on the pattern. It's since 1918. All Ravenswood vets come home safely from war. There's been 5 other accidents before. So if we're going World War I, World War II, Afghanistan is what her mom came home from. So then Vietnam, and I guess probably Korea. Caleb says they all die within a week. Luke says a bunch of people were killed in 2 other instances, in the building and a mine collapse. Remy says it camouflages that there were also 5 teens there, which we go, I don't know if that's necessarily correlated there. Olivia says, "Sorry, I have to go," and leaves, and Luke goes to follow. Olivia talks to Luke alone and says, "We don't have time for this. We have to find out who Abby is." Luke comes back to Remy and says, "I want to talk about this, but Olivia needs me right now." Remy says, "Just be careful." Luke says, "There's one flaw in your theory. We all didn't die," then walks off. Remy says, "Maybe I'm just seeing nothing." Caleb says, "No, I see the pattern too," and reassures her that her mom isn't to blame for that. Her mom coming home isn't to blame for Miranda's death and whatever else might be happening to them. Remy thinks Miranda actually might blame her mom, though. Olivia and Luke look through their dad's calendar. Their mom walks in and is like, "Hey, what are you doing on your dad's computer?" And Luke asks who Abby is. Mom says, "How do you know that name?" And they say the police is looking for her. Michelle says Abby was his girlfriend in high school and was trying to contact him, supposedly because of suspicions that he had about the town. She then reveals that Abby's been dead for 20 years. Remy helps her mom. Did you have something to say?
No.
Okay. You're just like, Remy helps her mom cook at home. Her mom apologizes for not coming to the funeral, and Remy says, "You didn't have to." Her mom says, "I'm glad you got closure." They then food prep in silence until her mom says it catches her by surprise. "I never went to the funerals for my squad mates because it just got too real." Remy says, "It's okay, and you're home now." Her mom says, "Safe in Ravenswood." As they hug, a car alarm goes off, and they accidentally knock a knife down near Remy's foot.
Been there, done that.
When you were getting food in the middle of the night?
Early in the pandemic, when my sleep schedule was broken at like 2 or 3 in the morning while you were sleeping, because you were working and I was building a business and unemployed. And so in the middle of the night, I was getting a midnight snack or like a 2 a.m. snack, and I was getting cheese and crackers, and I was cutting cheese with the knife, and I slid that knife right off the cutting board, landed right next to my toe on the ground.
I'm glad you still have all the toes.
Thank you. Me too. It was a small knife, and it didn't land like theirs did.
Right, because there's no one after you.
Clang to the floor. Yeah, the ghosts aren't trying to get me. If anything, I think one intervened.
That's true. Caleb goes to see Raymond. Turns out Raymond had let Springer go because he broke into Raymond's liquor cabinet, and Raymond had to do his duties filling the grave. He thanks Caleb for what he said today. Caleb says he'll stay around town for the next few days. Raymond asks, doesn't he have school? And Caleb's like, we're on a long break. Raymond asks him to follow him. Raymond takes him out to the old carriage house that they had refurnished for the old groundskeeper. Now it's empty since he retired. He allows Caleb to stay there if he can help out and take care of the grounds. Caleb says thanks. Raymond leaves, and Caleb watches him walk back to the house through the window. Miranda then appears and says, I don't get that guy. Why did he help you out and not me? And do you think my uncle tried to drown you still? Caleb says, I think it was the thing on the bridge that tried to kill me. They open up a chest and find old toys and a children's book that was her mom's. Miranda has been hoping her mom would show up since she's dead now, and Caleb understands what it's like to want that connection. Miranda freaks out, not being able to interact with anything. Suddenly, she disappears and finds herself in the main house. Mrs. Grundwald walks down the hall past Miranda, but stops for a moment and then keeps walking. Miranda looks at a portrait on the wall of what she assumes is her mom. She touches it as the lights shut off, and she hears a voice that says, get out and go home. Then lots of whispers, and Miranda turns and runs. All the scenes in the house are very effective. Caleb's phone rings. It's a text from Hannah saying she misses him. He texts her back that he'll call her tonight. Miranda's back looking worried. She says, I was in the house again in this limbo space, but I wasn't alone. She doesn't know what it was, and maybe there are other spirits stuck there, but they didn't want to be friends. Remy walks into the living room and sees a note from her mom saying that she's out seeing Dr. Frankel. She sees her dad watching a video of what looks like a bombing. Remy's like, was that the attack? Like, with mom was in? Where did you get that? He's like, it was part of her discharge paperwork, and then puts it away in a folder, and your mom hasn't seen it yet. Remy says mom should decide if she wants to watch it or not, and her dad says, let me worry about your mother. Olivia looks through her parents' old yearbooks and finds Abby and sees that she died in 1992.
Even though her photo looks like it's from 2007.
100%. I'm like, oh yeah, that looks exactly like her yearbooks. Olivia goes to school and sees the plaque on the science lab honoring the kids who died in 1992. She looks around and decides to leave. No, so that would have been the goal for her. She looks around and decides to leave. She hears a voice scream and turns around to see if it came from the science lab. She looks in the door window and suddenly a person jumps out that looks like their skin was peeled off. Suddenly the person disappears.
They're burned. There was a fire.
But it's like you know how where it's just all kind of red?
Yeah. Because it was burned.
Yeah, I should explain it that way. But that's what it looks like with out skin. Kind of like a Hellraiser-ish type of thing.
Yeah, it was spooky.
Luke is prepping food when he hears a sound and yells out, but then Olivia rounds the corner. He says we have to get our story straight about Abby and what to say to the police and things, and Olivia says, I think Abby was actually trying to contact me, and I think she's still trying to contact me. I saw her at the funeral standing next to Dad's grave. I went to the science lab and saw, then she trails off. She's like, I think she's part of Remy's pattern just like us. Luke says, you can't believe this, and she says, I think Dad did. You have to help me. Remy washes dishes and looks at her parents enjoying wine on the couch. She then grabs the discharge paperwork while they aren't looking and reads the file. The entire squad was vaporized, but her mother wasn't. She gets a text from Caleb to meet at his new house. Remy and Caleb walk to the house, and she says, thank you for believing me. He says there's something you should know about Miranda, but gets cut off by noise, and we see Luke and Olivia come over. Olivia says, we're ready to talk. Caleb tells them that Miranda's still here, and he talked to her. Remy says her ghost, and Caleb nods. They look shocked except for Luke, who looks concerned. Caleb says, I have to help her, but she's trapped here. Everyone believes him but Luke. Caleb is surprised they do, but Remy says it's just Ravenswood. Olivia asks if one of them is named Abby, one of the ghosts. Luke is annoyed by this. Olivia has him hand her a magnetic board with letters. She tells Caleb she's seen Abby twice and thinks she's trying to warn us. Luke says, what do you, this is insane. We survived. It's not some weird pattern. Oh no, my phone. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Did the internet?
No, I accidentally, when I moved my hand, it turned it and then just completely broke the app. Okay. She tells Caleb
you're just gonna sing through it instead of editing it out.
Luke says about we survived. Caleb's like it's not over. Olivia moves the letters to the edge of the board and prepares for a seance. They turn off all the lights, and Miranda tells Caleb not to do this. I don't think the spirits are trying to help her. I have a bad feeling. Olivia says, Caleb then communicates this, and Olivia says, noted. If anything gets weird, we'll stop. Always a good idea. Olivia asks to talk to Abby. Nothing happens, but suddenly there's a noise, and they all jump. Caleb looks at Miranda, who shakes her head. Caleb walks over to the front door, opens it up, and looks out, and he sees that down the stairs, the front door is ajar and goes down the stairs to investigate. The other three go to continue the seance, even though Luke's like, maybe we should wait till he comes back. Miranda hears a noise and asks if they heard that, and as the noises get louder and Miranda yells to shut up, suddenly she's back in the main house as she gets tossed around by like some sort of like unseen force. She asks if Abby's out there, please talk to us. Sparks fly from the nearby light. Miranda gets on the ground and says, please, they're so young, just like you and me, don't let them die too. Suddenly the noises stop and Miranda hears a phone ring. The phone rattles on its receiver and falls off. We hear static on the other end. Miranda leans in and says hello, but hears static. She then hears something. She then hears go away through the phone. Miranda says, Abby, please talk to us. We need to know what we're up against. Suddenly Miranda's back in the other house. The little like cup they're using for like the Ouija board moves to yes to announce Abby is here in the room. Olivia asks if their father discovered the curse of Ravenswood, and it again slides to yes. Caleb sees Springer outside. Springer's like, I worked here and I couldn't even put lunch in the fridge, but you get keys to the kingdom. Olivia then asks if her dad was with Abby. That slides to no. Did the curse kill him? Yes. The house shakes. Miranda worries that someone's coming and sees the ceiling crack. She yells out. Olivia asks if her father's killer is trying to kill them, and it slides to yes. Caleb runs in as the doors and windows lock and all the blinds shut. They freak out and sees the letters move to spell 5 in the middle of the board. Miranda wants them to stop. Olivia then sees like other letters move to say pact. So now it says 5 pact. Miranda runs in, flips the board, scaring everyone as the chandelier falls and misses them. Caleb then sees Miranda surrounded in white light as Remy and the others seem to notice her too. Raymond looks out the window. He says, I told him the other groundskeeper retired. Mrs. Grundwalds says, then he'll think the stains are rust. Raymond asks if he's having a party, and Mrs. Grundwalds says he has guests, perhaps the kind he shouldn't be inviting. The end.
Is Ravenswood Purgatory?
Oh, that's a good thought. I don't think so.
Okay.
I think the house kind of serves as like that in between for ghosts for like whatever reason. I'm assuming since it's connected to the cemetery and the graveyard.
It seems like it was him keeping their hair, which we get to in the second episode.
Yeah.
Because when Miranda's hair thing is cracked, she can go wherever she wants.
That is a good call.
Because I was going to ask about
right.
why he kept her hair, but we get that answered in the next one.
Right, to like somehow like hold on to their spirits,
keep them trapped in that on those grounds.
Right, because I guess what else is like out there?
Yeah, is he protecting them from something that's outside, or is he keeping them in?
Right, because I wonder if that goes back to like him somehow keeping the status quo of these, of the curse essentially, and that it like keeps coming like. In order to keep it from getting worse, and he keeps it at bay by like these, by participating in keeping these ghosts and that sort of thing.
I don't know. Why did so many people come to Miranda's funeral?
I know. I understand all the families and stuff that were like in the accident, because it's like, well, we all survived. We didn't really know her, but it was this really traumatic event we all went through.
Mm-hmm.
But it really brought out everybody in the town.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was expecting when we did get her funeral, just be like a few people.
Yeah.
But like everybody who's anybody in Ravenswood. And it's also weird that we get that like Springer's like apparently like working on the grounds.
Yeah, that he worked there. And also just like how connected her Uncle Raymond is to the town.
Yes, very much so.
You would think he'd be more of like a recluse, but it seems like people know him.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. Why did the 4 of them live? Why didn't they die?
I'm assuming it has something to do with their lineage, that like there maybe something to do, but I guess like why Miranda and not everybody else?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good question. I am assuming it's something to do with like their lineage, since it seems to be either like a reincarnation or like some sort of like soul pact. So I think maybe that like 5 pact they're referring to is like, okay, we're going to make a pact to like fight against this, and that it's maybe like at some point in the future we will be able to vanquish it, even if it's not us. Say in 100 years time. We can like come back and like take this on. that like they failed before or like were able to do it. And so somehow that helped like insulate them, even if it like ended up killing Miranda.
Fair enough.
So that's my best guess. It's kind of like an It where they like return as adults, but like in this, it's like they're like a future generation.
How sus is Remy's dad?
Extremely sus. Like, okay, and this is actually the thing that bugs me in episode 4 is that it all happens off screen that he's somehow okay with Luke now. So then
Because
that
her mom talked to him.
right, but that happens off screen, and then suddenly he's like, all right. But like that guy doesn't seem like he would be convinced. You know what I
No.
mean?
Yeah.
So that even makes me even more sus. You know what I mean? And especially, okay, I don't think the U.S. government is going to send home on like a CD or a file what I would assume would be classified incidents of like attacks happening where your spouse got like almost killed.
You wouldn't just pop that on a CD-ROM and send it?
Right. Hey, like, thanks for the memories. Here's a slideshow and like when your squad died. I don't think that's standard practice. And then he's just like sitting there like, I'll watch it and like I won't tell my wife about it. So he's just sus at least on an interpersonal
Well, and he's also
level.
that's illegal. He opened her mail and it was from the government. That's even more illegal, I would assume.
Yeah. But also like that's
I don't know. If you're married, I think even then. I don't know. What's the laws on mail? If someone knows, let us know. Send us an email.
Damn.
Can I legally open Brenton's mail?
You know, it's just a trap when I say like, open that for me. and vice versa.
I love it.
But he's sus on that level, and then also it's just like the American government is just sending classified files to re-trigger their the PTSD in their soldiers.
Can Grundy see Miranda?
Oh, I think absolutely. I think Grundy's like she doesn't speak to her directly, but I think Grundy is very in touch with the spirit. Well, she already is. We already know that. She's like, I had visions about Allison in the future. But I think she definitely can see Miranda. Like, I think when she walks by, she goes like, interesting, you know, like in her head, but like keeps going, like doesn't make it. Like, I think she can, but Raymond can't. Even if they are like,
no, he walks through her in the next episode, and I think if he could see her,
he wouldn't have.
He wouldn't have walked through her.
Does he walk through her?
Yeah.
I thought she was like standing in the corner and he didn't walk.
No, because then he goes towards his desk and she like disappears. Like he walks through her and she disappears.
Okay. All right. So that makes more sense then. But yes, I think Grundy is, she can see.
From a practical standpoint, where's Caleb getting his clothes from? I know the suit was from like borrowed from the old master of the house or whatever the fuck it was.
But then he gets his like nice like leather jacket. Like he didn't have time to run home. He like wore his clothes on the bus. Well, no, he did pack. Did he pack an overnight bag? He wouldn't have packed an overnight bag to go on. So I don't know. He just go shopping at the Ravenswood General Store. Maybe there's like a Ravenswood Macy's.
Like a nice Nordstrom.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the Ravenswood.
Yeah, this looks Nordstrom. You know
exactly. We love to go down to the Ravenswood Mall. So we all hang out. We hang with the ghosties. Get some Orange Julius.
I did enjoy Olivia's first grade teacher style seance. Because it was just like a whiteboard and like teacher letters and a cup, and I was like, yeah.
I that is a very clever way of like doing that, of like changing up the Ouija board. Where it's like this like kind of like hokey thing where it's just like, yeah, like there's a bunch of children's things around here because obviously a child was raised here, which is a whole nother thing of like what happened with Miranda's mom there. That maybe you just moved all your stuff out there. Either way, it is very funny like to have like magnetic letters.
Why can't Abby materialize for them, but Miranda can?
It seemed like Abby didn't want to. And then when Miranda sees her later, she freaks out. And when she saw Olivia, she also was like, You know what I mean? When Olivia saw her. So I don't think...
But she materialized for Olivia.
Right.
Twice.
And so, yeah, there's like kind of like mixed messages there on what is Abby trying to do. Because she's like, I think Abby's trying to contact me. But then also Miranda's like, don't let it happen to them.
But I'm not going to help?
Yeah. So I don't know if like there's something like Abby's being like wishy-washy on because she's like, it just has to happen, like the ritual has to be complete, versus like, okay, maybe you can like break it, but that's gonna put me on like on a line where it's very scary. I could be like swallowed up by some sort of unseen darkness. So I think maybe that's it, and then she takes some coaxing, or is also thinking that if she stays away and scares them away, that they wouldn't that they would stop, like drop it, like it wouldn't end up like her dad, you know what I mean, who seemed to have probed into something. The mayor got his hands dirty apparently and like went digging for the curse. See, it's like that sort of stuff. Like I want to know what he was like was going on with the mayor.
Yeah, and like, did his wife have an affair because he was obsessed over his dead girlfriend from like 20 years ago?
Right.
Like, I don't support it, but like, I'm like, I could see being mad.
Right. Or was like,
not in like I think you should honor the people that have passed in your life, but there's a difference between that and, you know, like if you don't believe in ghosts.
Yeah. And then later, what is her and Raymond's connection too? Because he seemed to really hate him. Also, was like the mayor also like, was he just negligent, or was he like also abusive, or was he just like a romantic rival?
Yeah, like was Raymond the hero or the villain?
Good. All these questions and more.
Okay. What happened to the groundskeeper?
Obviously, he was freaking murdered in the thing. We get that confirmation from Mrs. Grundwald where she's like, he'll think it was just rust. So I don't know. Did Raymond like slit his throat and to play the carriage house? It's just like a weird, like spooky thing that they just throw in the background there. I'm assuming it's related to whatever creepy shenanigans her and Raymond have going on.
And last but not least, why does Miranda have to get thrown around and do all the work?
Miranda does all the work. Nobody noticed that the chandelier was cracking above their head. And it was really cracking. I mean, I guess they didn't notice it because it was like a CGI effect. But a pretty hokey one. I think the CGI in this is the thing that brings like the horror down. And I don't know if that's like a budget thing rather than like having a actual set crumble like that with like a chandelier fall. But
I don't know, because in Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, and the line for the beat, there's a section where you like the line is very fun if you haven't been. But at least the one in Disneyland, there's the Mickey's Jack and the Beanstalk. There's a beanstalk that goes up into the ceiling, and then we got stuck there because the ride broke down, so we were there for like a good hour. And over time, like the cracks grow bigger and they light up, and like there's like an effect to it. So I'm like, if you could do that,
yeah.
But I mean,
might be
this
more expensive.
also is one that happens all the time versus like doing it to use once is very different.
Yeah. But I think like when she's in, when they use the lighting to its benefit, I think it's really effective. Like the hallway in the house with like where you can't see either ends of the hallways is really good, and the way the lights dim and like go in and out. And I think also whispering voices is a cacophony of whispering voices is usually pretty effective to me. Rather than, we haven't gotten like a little girl singing yet, which I can assume what might happen soon. But I think like that hallway in the house, just in general, you know, because just hitting horror tropes,
Just creepy.
that hallway in the house is really good. In terms of like, scares.
Yeah.
But everything else is like a little bit like, okay. The hand reaching out of the grate too.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's good
So
stuff.
spooky.
Are
you ready for the second episode? Episode 4?
Yeah, move right into it. Okay. I'm gonna take a sip of water. Now I'm ready. Ravenswood episode 4. The Devil Has a Face. Open on the cemetery gates. Miranda walks through the graveyard yelling for Abby. She rounds a corner to see a group of teens with Abby hanging around. They seem to like all... It was another thing. They seem to all like hang out and like talk to each other, but then they get like scared and disperse when they see Miranda. Miranda walks up to Abby's gravestone, which then gets sliced in half by like right in front of her by like some sort of unseen force. Caleb is in his towel and decides it's time to email. He sends an email to Hannah apologizing for not returning. Oh my God.
Well, he's writing.
Right. I put writing an email, sorry. Not returning. I put towels again. Not returning her calls when his screen flickers. Miranda appears saying she saw Abby and more ghosts like her, like young ghosts. Caleb looks upset that he even came to this town and that something's after him. He has a cut on his arm from cleaning up, but it's also like, what were you cleaning up, Caleb? Because it's like on his like near his bicep.
He's got to show off that arm.
Yeah, that's right. He was really like kind of digging down. And she asks if this is the same email he's been trying to write for the past few days. He says he doesn't know what he'd even write. He's afraid of losing Hannah again. Randall looks over at his laptop. Luke and Olivia can't sleep in the middle of the night. Luke is freaked out about the seance and says she can't go back to Caleb's place anymore. We need to leave it alone. Olivia says it's not going to go away, but Luke doesn't listen. Remy gets water in the middle of the night. She suddenly looks at her glass, which is filled with blood as blood oozes from the fridge. Her dad comes in behind her, and she drops her glass. Dad comes in behind her and grabs her from behind. She freaks out, but when she stops, she sees it's only water. She then sees a crow in the window. The crew gathers at the vault. As Caleb tells him about the sliced gravestone, Olivia says Abby was punished for contacting us about the pact. Caleb says we need to find someone in town who knows how about things to get them to talk. Remy mentions maybe the paper's blog for people to write in anonymously online. Luke gets up to leave, but wants to talk to Remy first. He invites Remy on a date that night. Remy says, I don't think I can sit in a dark room like right now, like go see a movie and stuff. Like, now's not really the time for a date. He says he understands. Caleb is upset that Luke is pretending things didn't happen, but Olivia reassures him that he understands, he just needs time. He's upset about her father's death. Okay, this scene's A+. Luke rides his bicycle as a crow flies in between his spokes, and he falls to the ground. Dillon drives up, and he's like, hey, you okay, man? Like, where's Olivia? Luke
You got
is like,
dive bombed by a bird.
Luke's like, I'm all right. She's at the vault. And Dillon drives away, and then Luke sees the dead crow in between his, wheel.
You didn't know if it's a crow or a raven.
Oh,
I just assume all the blackbirds are ravens because it's Ravenswood, but I don't know.
Oh, that's probably more right. I don't know the difference between...
I don't either.
Yeah.
I think they're both...
Birds?
There's like a word. They're in the same family of bird. It's fine. I'll find it.
A murder.
No.
The other three go over creating a blog post. Olivia's mom, Michelle, comes in saying you have to keep your appointment with Dr. Frankel. Olivia pushes back, but her mom makes her go. As they leave the vault, Raymond comes up to them and calls Michelle by name. He meant to call her to say thank you and wanted to say that at the funeral. He asked Olivia if she was hurt last night. Michelle is shocked by the news that she was over at the house and that Olivia was out with boys. She makes Olivia get in the car.
It's Corvus.
Oh,
I looked this up because I use this in my book.
Yes, okay.
I was like, I know this.
Oh, that's where you got that from.
Uh-huh.
Okay, cool.
Everything has a meaning.
Yeah, learn new things every day. Okay, so she makes Olivia get in the car. Michelle asks Raymond if she needs to write any checks or anything, like about Olivia, like breaking things, or if things were broken and things. Raymond's like, it's okay. Like, I know you're shaken up and things by like the death and everything. And if I knew the police would come after you after the service, like I would have like stepped in and I wouldn't let someone hurt you. She says, thank you, Ray, and walks away. As she gets in the car, Olivia's like, I didn't know you were friends. Michelle says we went to school together, and you wouldn't know him because he wouldn't come around when your dad is alive because he didn't like him, and like for a myriad of reasons. But she refuses to elaborate on those. Caleb takes pictures of the gravestones for reference and to follow up with Abby's family potentially. Miranda pushes Caleb to reach out to Hannah, and he says if Hannah knew I was in danger, she would be here in an instant. Miranda asks if being here is annoying Caleb. He sees a woman stealing flowers from the grave, so Caleb goes to confront her. She's like, my God, Caleb? And he's like, yes. And she's like, is your last name Rivers? And he's like, yes. And it's like, then you're his spitting image. Caleb confirms that, are you talking about the one who died years ago? And she's like, yes, like it was always up on Henry's mantelpiece. You're a spitting image of Henry's older brother. But Henry has left town. Clark dismisses, class, sorry. Class. I'm like, wait, where am I getting Clark from? Not reading correctly. Class dismisses as Luke and Tess pack up. The teacher stops Luke to talk about the accident, and Luke tries to leave and says, "We'll have his paper in tomorrow." The teacher then says, "I don't think that'll be enough, for you to graduate. I don't want you to have to retake this class next year. And I know you're going through some things, so, I will offer some effort credit if you come do the play." Luke eventually agrees. Caleb and Remy track down Henry online. Recently left Ravenswood a year ago and canceled his decades-old subscription to the Gazette. Caleb wants to go now, but Remy doesn't want to yet. Caleb's like, "Fine, I'll go myself." Remy then sees hands push up underneath a cloth covering a patch of ground. They lift it up to go to look at it, and they see that "Go" is written in the ground. Remy and Caleb are at a senior living center and go to talk to Henry. Caleb says, "I think we're family," and Henry looks freaked out. Olivia goes to Caleb's place but finds he's not home. She goes to leave, but the door opens. She enters, looking around. The door closes behind her. When we see, it's Miranda. Olivia says, "I think your uncle knew we were in here last night." Olivia is freaked out by Miranda and asks if Raymond knows about Miranda's ghost-like situation. She also wonders if Raymond would have come after her dad. Miranda says he has clippings of your dad's murder on his desk. He's in the room with all his embalming tools. It's like the secret room he has. Olivia says they never found the murder weapon. Miranda says you should come back when he's not there and we can look around. Olivia asks where Miranda goes when she's not around here. And then Miranda's just kind of like, "Well, I mean, can't really go very many places." And Olivia talks about how controlling her mom is, and that's why she looks like a discount Blair Waldorf. Olivia says, "It sucks you came all this way and then died." Miranda agrees, and she thinks she's still here because she's getting attached to certain people and is sad that he has another girl. Olivia's like, "I don't know how to say this, but you're not exactly available." And they go,
This is a moment where I said, "Okay, no, it's too far."
"No."
I knew this was coming, and I still hated it.
Yeah, I hate it too. I didn't know if they would steer into this now that she was dead.
Oh, yeah, I knew they would.
Well, I guess it worked for Casper and the girl that was in the movie Casper. Henry discusses being born when...
You didn't even give her a name?
I don't remember the movie
Was it
at all.
Casper and Wendy? Wasn't that one of the ones?
That was the one with Hilary Duff, right?
I think so.
Yeah, it was the one
Not
before
with
that.
Duff.
Yeah, where I read the plot synopsis and 1 million people die in that movie. I'm like, damn, I watched this as a kid. All I remember is at the end when Casper comes out as a real boy and they dance, and then they dance into the sky. At least the ceiling of the ballroom they're in.
Who doesn't want to dance with your ghost boyfriend?
Exactly. I guess, I don't... Miranda, why don't you get a different real boyfriend and then they could have a ghost girlfriend? Why Caleb?
Because she can't leave.
Yeah, he's the only one that's...
Slim pickings.
Yeah, it's either family or him. Henry discusses being born when Woodrow Wilson was in the White House. His mother always thought Caleb would come back, but didn't. The grief swallowed his father whole, and his father actually just disappeared. Caleb asks him about the town and accidents and the pact. Henry then takes Caleb's king and chess and says, "You're careless, you have to pay more attention to your moves," and then calls to be taken away. Luke comes into the play, and Tess is upset to see him. Another girl points out that in the play, he'll be marrying Tess, and is like, "That's so messed up. Ha ha ha." Most accurate high school scene. Miranda's ghost writes Caleb's email to Hannah and is upset. I guess if you're on the computer anyway, there's a million other things to do. Tess...
Google's cat videos.
Exactly. I don't know. Maybe it runs World of Warcraft. You can use Caleb's credit card. Tess comes up to Luke.
Now that he's got his Montecito mom money.
Yeah, exactly. Charge it. Tess comes to talk to Luke. Tess says you need to tell the teacher to find someone else to play the lead. Luke says you don't need to, sorry. And Luke says he already dropped out, and being up there with you and everything, it just feels wrong. Tess says, I know you might not believe me, but I miss Olivia and I'm sorry what I said to her. Luke says, I'll pass it along. And Tess says, no, you won't. Maybe I did use her, but when I was around her, she made me feel she uses classy like her. I wrote down just a better person as a shorthand, but it was more she made me feel classier.
I had status.
Yeah. Miranda is in Raymond's office where a body part is in a jar. Oh yeah. Later it's a heart is what I figured out. He walks in and looks at the knife in the cabinet. Miranda notices the newspaper clippings on his desk, turns around after he sees Miranda kind of move it, and then starts cleaning the knife and then sits down at his desk. Caleb and Rennie talk on the phone. Caleb sees that Henry's father just disappeared after being a bailiff for 30 years. Remy says she needs to update the blog question because there's 0 answers. They hang up as Miranda appears in front of Caleb. She tells him that he shouldn't stay here. Raymond may be scarier than I thought. She says, let it go. Leave here while you still can. I wrote the email to Hannah. Just hit send and get on the next bus out of here. Caleb's like, what? How did you do this? And he's like, how am I supposed to just walk away? He's like, I'm not irritated like with you. It's just like there's just this confusion. This conversation is interrupted by a knock at the door as Henry appears. He hands Caleb the keys and he's like, I can't tell you what this is about, but it's your turn now. Goodbye. Remy is over at Caleb's and Caleb shows her the keys. Remy sees that the keys are official from the county and that the high school used to be a county courthouse and there's a bunch of rooms that have never been renovated. Let's go check. Tess waits for Luke with the teacher to run lines for the play. Luke comes in late and the teacher goes to set up the auditorium while they run lines. It's very funny. He's just like, well, I'll just leave you two here. Tess wonders why he changed his mind, and he's like, I like the play. He doesn't answer when she asks if Olivia knows he's here. Olivia and Miranda sneak into the morgue. Miranda has her open up the cold storage room, which has a secret door into the room to his special office. Miranda says, don't touch anything, but look around. Luke and Tess run through the play. Tess leans in randomly and just kisses Luke, and he's like, whoa, what was that? And she's like, I wanted to get it over with so, like, you didn't look like you wanted to puke in front of the cast. He says, like, can't we just, like, wait until we actually get to the scene? And Tess is like, oh, it's just, like, when I got made fun of when I was, like, younger, I had braces, and, like, kids made fun of me because it sounded like I said penis. And then he leans in and kisses her and says, like, we don't have to hold hands. Olivia finds hair in a jar, and she then finds all sorts of other drawers with 5 jars with initials on each of the jars and hair in each of the jars. They find a drawer with 5 jars that has one with AW on it, and it's like, it must be Abby. Miranda then finds another drawer with a jar with her hair in it. She freaks out, breaks the jar, and then finds herself at the front of the cemetery gates, but outside the gates. Olivia's like, hell yeah. Or Miranda seems to be like, hell yeah. Olivia, back in the room, sees the drawers start opening and closing again, and the heart in a jar starts beating and turns liquid red. It turns the liquid red. Olivia runs out. Caleb and Remy find doors under the school, but the key doesn't open them. Remy thinks the doors were jail cells at one point. Caleb then finds another door that opens, and they find it's like a storage room with a bunch of old equipment. Caleb then finds an old lockbox. He goes to open it with another key, but it breaks in the lock. The door then closes them in. At the play, well, this apparently never gets followed up on. At the play, they start running over the scene as Luke sees Miranda walk in. She goes straight up to him and is like, hey, is like Caleb around? And Luke looks scared. He then goes to get some water as Miranda watches him walk away. Miranda then hears someone calling her name and notices a girl sitting in a chair. Miranda then walks over and is like, Mom. Her mom holds up a finger to her lips to like silence her and grabs Miranda's hand. Backstage, Luke tries to cool off when the other 3 come to talk to him. Luke says Miranda's on the stage. Caleb then goes to look but doesn't see her, and the 2 chairs where Miranda and her mom were empty. Remy tries to catch Luke up, but Luke says he's not part of this. Caleb then saves Olivia from a metal gate thing, almost killing her, and then it says, like, still don't think you're part of this? Luke and Remy catch up at her house. Caleb took the box back to his place to investigate. Luke tells Remy he kissed Tess today. Remy's like, did that have to do with the play? And he's like, I'm not sure. It made me feel like us before this incident. I just can't be around people who are only going to remind me that things are bad. I want to be around someone who makes me laugh. Remy cries as her dad comes in. He's like, hey, sorry to interrupt. I'm like totally cool with you kids now. Like, hey, like, are you guys okay? Didn't mean to, I'll just get out of your hair. And then Remy's like, no, like Luke can't stay. He has to go. Luke's like, hey, thanks. Like, we'll talk later, Remy. But Remy won't acknowledge him. Her dad's like, was that because of me? And she's like, no. Caleb comes into Raymond's secret room and is like, why did you have some of her hair? Raymond's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Caleb then looks through his drawers but finds all the jars gone. He says, Raymond says, if you're to remain here, stay out of places where you aren't invited. Caleb says, I won't be staying here much longer anyway. Back in the groundskeeper house, Caleb attacks the box, which eventually works to open it. He looks inside, but we don't see what is in it. Miranda and her mom walk to a door with a white light behind it. Miranda looks back, but her mom urges her to come through. And as they go through, the door shuts. The end.
When this episode started, I looked at you and I said, I want Miranda to have A or like XOXO Gossip Girl vibes because like she's kind of like giving us the rundown, but like it just doesn't have the same feeling.
No, Miranda's too lost. She doesn't have any control because she doesn't have a body. And so she's just kind
Where
of
is
like,
she? She'll never tell. Like I feel like she could have really played with that, and Miranda just didn't take the comedic opportunity. Was she scared? Sure.
yeah.
Like,
Miranda seems to be scared shitless most of the time, which fair enough. Like, look at where she got stuck. It's not a great place.
First and foremost, let's talk about the fact that why would he not just fucking tell Hannah?
Just tell Hannah. Like, don't call attention to it because it's just gonna piss us all off. You know.
It's such a weak argument because like Hannah knows Grundy talks to people from beyond the dead.
Yeah.
Hannah's literally seen ghosts.
Hannah would just be like, "What? That sounds crazy. I'm coming."
Yeah.
And they're trying to give him a reason for her to not show up because like she's not a character on the show. But like again, don't call attention to it because then a bunch of other people are going to be like, "Okay, then why aren't we in Rosewood?" You know, so like knock it off. The whole stuff where like Caleb's arc is pretty weak in this episode, especially.
We do get a Hannah episode. She does come.
I did see she was a guest star, but like it's not enough for. She's not going to be. At least it doesn't seem like she'd be a big enough character to like warrant us to constantly be like, why isn't Caleb checking in with her? Blah blah blah. Oh. Now
like it's been 2 days.
Right. And it's like now we have to have like Caleb has decided that maybe he needs to throw away his whole future with her because he might like Miranda.
Who's dead.
Yeah. Like you said when we were watching it, you're like, couldn't they just be friends? You actually said that when it was Olivia and Miranda, and you're like, wait a minute, no, like I mean, like they could be like more than friends, but not Caleb.
Yeah, I'm all down for that. Give us a good relationship there, but not this one.
Right.
My favorite thing I think that happens in this episode was when Luke goes, "Hey Remy, do you want to go on a date?" in the middle of like a literal crisis.
Yeah, this is the thing where he just flips. He's now just nakedly like trying to. They're just making him be the person that's like slowing the process on all this, and it's just he's miserable to watch. And then so when it eventually becomes like Remy, I need someone who is willing to
like pretend like nothing's happening.
Yeah, and it's just such a flip because it's not. We don't get him trying to grapple with seeing people beyond the dead other than when that pops up, and instead we get like this complete flip where he's like, I'm at my my limit with like sadness, so we can't talk about it.
I feel like I would just send Miranda to annoy him until he was like, okay, fine.
Yeah,
because like
it's gonna like I understand where if it's just not a convincing argument for like how he would react other than just being like, hey, he never pushes on Remy either of being like, hey, like I can't deal with this. We don't get enough of him things. We just like rush already to like, I like Tess.
Yeah.
And also there's so much more bad blood. He's immediately forgot like what they've done to their family.
And he literally said to his sister that Tess was a bad person.
Yeah. He somehow has dropped all his grudges.
Yeah,
he's just like, they're trying to be like he's just shell-shocked from like seeing ghosts, but
maybe
like they've just flipped him too much on a dime.
Maybe he hit his head when he fell off his bike because of the bird.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. He's concussed.
Is Dillon suspicious to you? Dillon is suspicious to me.
Yeah, I mean,
he texted Olivia and she didn't reply, and then he's like, "Oh, sure, she's getting coffee."
Right.
Where else would she fucking be?
Right. So he definitely seems like he's in the background, just like constantly trying to like follow after her. And also, why doesn't she talk to him? There's got to be something there, even if it's not on the surface of something she realizes of like why she's not reaching out to this person. Because Olivia seems to have all but forgotten about him.
She's focused right now. She's really in the zone.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a Dillon watch going on in the background.
We already touched on this with how does Uncle Raymond know Michelle?
Yeah.
Do you think they're romantic?
Yes.
I think everyone's romantic in this.
I think there really is.
Everyone's going kiss, 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 kiss. There's a bunch
Pretty
of
much.
people who are very either like comfortable with open relationships and or cheating on people in Ravenswood.
I think there's a lot of affairs in Ravenswood. Which I think that's the thing with Rosewood. We had such a clear vision that this is like an upper. We don't get a lot. We don't get like too much of like the machinations of Rosewood, but we get an understanding of the people that we follow in Rosewood as being this upper class.
Yeah, and you can
people.
even like force rank who has the most money based on like their houses and like what they have and the appearances they give.
Right. So you can at least work backwards on like what the culture of the town is and that sort of thing.
Well,
even if we don't get
between like a Hastings and a Montgomery.
Right.
Like Arya's family is the most like Arya's and Emily's are the most like working class-esque.
Mm-hmm. And we understand that like
not that Ashley doesn't work, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. I just have no idea how Olivia and Luke's family interface with the rest of the town.
We just know that they're rich.
Right. And they used that their dad was the mayor and that the town seems to now be against them, but like
because they think that the mother killed the father.
Right. But we don't get an understanding of like how that impact, what is their day to day within the town of these people. I just don't understand Ravenswood as a place at all. That's
fair. I don't either.
Yeah.
Because also when I wrote this at the last part of my notes, like, will we ever address like the aspects of Ravenswood we saw through Pretty Little Liars, like all the people just standing in the cemetery and like that kind of stuff. Like we don't really get any of that.
No, that Remy would be like, yeah, of course our town is haunted. We have these gatherings in the middle of the day where we like listen to this recording and like gather in the cemetery.
Yeah, or was that like a weird thing? She's like, I don't know what that was, but I covered it for the paper.
Yeah.
Who's the Nana stealing flowers? She just knows Caleb's family?
She knew she knew the Riverses. Just a good friend of Henry's.
Why was she stealing the flowers?
That is really funny. Where she's just
I was like, maybe she's like related to those people.
Ma'am? No, it just gets dropped. Why is she stealing the flowers? She's like, they don't need them.
Yeah, she's like, I'm taking them home. And I'm like, what a weird concept.
It's really weird.
Like,
and it just gets dropped.
It could have been like, why couldn't she have just been putting flowers on someone's grave and like had trouble with it? Because you know how you have like the hoses to fill the water to put the flowers in? Like there could have been, and Caleb could have gone to help her and she could have been like, oh my God, you look just like so-and-so. Like there was literally, and she could have just been standing there and she could have been like, you look so much like.
She would have just been like, Caleb? And you would have been like, what? Yeah, you don't have to have her like.
Committing a crime potentially?
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Stealing from the dead.
It's so weird.
It's really weird.
Why does Miranda have a crush on Caleb?
I don't know. It's dumb. Like, get this out of here. This is the stuff like that I was like grown.
Mm-hmm.
It's like only it's definitely worse just by the virtue of like Caleb as a character coming over from from Pretty Little Liars, and then now it's like this forced thing with her, and it's like she's dead, but they're like having it be this romantic thing from across the grave. It couldn't have even had it. I don't know why they had to spell it out like this, where it's like now we have to grapple with these feelings in like the fourth episode, when it could have been like later on down the line if they wanted to do this. Like, you know what I mean? There's no build up or investment for us to even weigh the options as an audience. Like
I'm confused.
Yeah, it's just all of a sudden they're both being like, ah. And then so we go like, no, I don't want this.
Yeah.
There's no there.
There's
no romance.
There's no romance. Miranda did ghostwrite his email though, and I did like that. That's a good pun, you know?
Yes.
I also have a note that says I hate the romance, but I think I like the crazy uncle. Because I'm just like, what's happening with you? But like, he's kind of boring. Like, I want Raymond to give me more.
Same.
I want him to give a little.
He's just, exactly.
Put a little something in it.
Come on, girl, give us nothing. Raymond is just, he just walks around being stern. And we go, okay. He just by being a mortician, just the fact of like his job and what he does and like really embodies it doesn't carry enough to like make him interesting.
Were Miranda's parents part of the 92 pact?
Oh, that's it. I would think
because they were teen parents, right? Or she was at least a teenager.
Mm-hmm. I would think so. That's a good call. I didn't thought about that. That Miranda's parents are probably connected to Abby. But I don't. She wasn't in the graveyard, was she? In that scene with all the rest of the kids?
I don't know.
That's something we'll have to go back and look at. She
But
might have been
also,
one of that group because we didn't know
was
what she
that
looked like.
her at the end of the episode?
Maybe not. Yeah,
That's what I
like
keep
where?
wondering.
Yeah, where did they go? It's like really trying to make it look like Miranda passed on to the next life.
But why didn't her mom talk at all?
Mm-hmm.
You never saw her mouth move.
No. So I kept wondering too if they would play with the dark spirits appearing as
your loved ones.
right.
Yeah.
So but then I also thought like when Miranda is appearing to Olivia, I'm like, oh, are they gonna play with that Olivia is actually following someone else to like her doom? They don't, but I'm like, I could see them playing with that in the future. You know, that was like a possibility when she leads her into the cold storage room. But no,
I see. Like,
yeah. So I could think that the show would do that.
Remy was wearing a classic 2010s shirt with an owl on it. I did make a note of that because it was like that, like the owl, just like the owl flash drive that Jenna had. Like it was that kind of owl.
Mm-hmm. Hey, we love it. Consistent fashion.
I hope Luke gets killed by the curse next. Also in my note.
He's really fucking gunning for it. I hope he does too.
He's not paying attention and he's not willing to like, actively try.
Like, I hate his stupid scene at the end too with like breaking up with Remy. Like this is dumb.
What do you think's gonna happen with Caleb and Hannah?
I think they're gonna break up. I'm gonna be annoyed by it because he's gonna be like some like stupid thing where he's not gonna communicate to her, and she's gonna be like what is going on, and then he's gonna end it with her, and it's gonna be so annoying. I think that's what's gonna happen, but we'll see.
We'll see.
You already know.
I do know.
So, when do we get Hannah? Do you know what episode?
No.
Okay.
I've only seen like all the clips of this show online, and mostly they're like the back half. So like most of the clips I've seen have not been in this so far.
I'm sure that's like when most of the plot starts happening.
Except I haven't seen the clips that are at the very end, which I think from what I read, I don't know. I'll be interested to see what that looks like visually and if it actually happens or if it's just kind of like spoken.
Oh, okay. I'm interested in the episode 6 because it's directed by Mick Garris. So if you are also a fan of Just King Things, you would also know, or at least are subscribing to the Patreon too. You would also know the excitement behind Mick Garris, who did many a Stephen King adaptation. So, I'm interested. I'm interested to see what he brings. It'd be cool. It could just be regular old episode, but that might be leaning more into horror things, which could be fun. Well, did you have anything else?
No, I was looking to see what episode Hannah goes to Ravenswood.
Oh, got it.
It looks like the very last one.
Oh, really? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there you go. Well, I'm starting to get a sense that there might be spirits somewhere in here. I think we should gather in. Brenton's Creepy Corner. Welcome, everybody. Brenton's Creepy Corner.
Not your spooky space.
Spooky space also. Oh no, I don't have any more puns. Do you got any more puns?
A ghastly garden. I don't know. We'd have to
that's a pretty good one.
We'd have to work on it.
Yeah.
For this, I think like a spooky space, a creepy corner, a haunted hallway.
Yeah. Oh, this is a haunted hallway. So I don't think much has changed in terms of my thoughts on things, but I think so that it's doing this thing where it is I'm saying a whole lot of nothing.
You said so much nothing at one time.
I don't think my
thoughts have changed much.
From last week for my theories that it is doing this thing where veterans are going off, and that is we're having to have the 5 teens, and there's this ancient curse there that stretches all the way back to that dam, and something to do with like American militarism and like hometown like American life, these small like suburbs, and how that affects communities and like the young people of the town, takes those away. But I do think it is good to start looking at like who in the town knows. So I think Raymond is at least aware, even if he's not an active antagonist, maybe just like a buffer of like helping keep things in order for this ritual to continue happening, because if it doesn't happen, it might get worse. I think that like could be happening there. That they're like these kind of like servants to like make sure this thing keeps happening, or else like dark spirits could run over the town or something. And I think we should be suspicious of Tess. I think like her getting close to Luke probably has ulterior motives after we saw her the last episode put on like the crown and be like, hee hee hee. So I think like that is maybe an ulterior motive there. You mentioned Dillon. He's doing stuff in the background. He could know something. Remy's dad seems really suspicious and could be connected to things, especially when Caleb said his name and he like really perked up. Does he just also know about the newspaper articles and people who died? I don't think so. There could be something else going on there. And I'm curious what like the Henry's dad and the prison has to do with, especially how they build a school on top of the prison.
Well, on top of an old county building that just had
county
cells
building that had
underneath.
cells. Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind. I thought it was like county jail.
No, it was like they were saying he was like, what were these used for? And she's like, I think some of them were holding cells. But like,
right. It was just like holding cells. Got it.
Yeah, because it was like the county building.
Right. But still, like, what ended up happening to his dad? Did he just like leave town to like avoid getting like part of that and killed? I do think
was it the county courthouse? That might have been why there were cells.
Oh, okay.
But you know what I mean, like
yeah,
it was something like a county building. Cells, yeah, exactly.
And I do think that we're probably going to find more for the rest of the crew outside of just Caleb and Miranda, that there were like other ancestors of theirs that look exactly like them. Mm-hmm. And that this is like this is them, that original crew, whatever their pact was, coming back around to try and break the curse. That original crew had made a pact but failed to complete and destroy the curse. So probably some sort of curse that was maybe a vengeful, or like a family, or maybe a widow that saw that made a pact when their, say, husband or son died in war, made a pact with like a dark spirit in the town, that they would never wanted them to die. And so like in a sense they would like take out the people who were like either skip the war, pacifist, and like weren't called in to like go to war. Mm-hmm. And so those were the fellow teens that like were killed as an offering to like protect them.
I'll be interested to see if the writers put that much thought into it.
Yeah, I mean, we shall see.
I'm not saying they didn't. I will be interested to see if they did.
There's got to be like some sort of grand design of like what the curse is and how it started. So,
well,
think about that. So yeah, I think that's probably about it for Brenton's Keepy Corner.
Ooh.
We'll see you all next time. Goodbye.
Me neither.
Hoping for a better week next week.
Uh-huh.
I've got high hopes on that episode 6. I want to see Mick Garris really bring the gas.
Doesn't matter how good the director is if the plot's not good.
I don't know. Could be some real cool vibes. The vibes could be good. Sometimes that's all you need. You ever seen Drive? That's just vibes.
I don't think I've seen Drive.
You'd probably not like Drive. But that is a movie that is just vibes.
Yeah. I think that this is a very weird choice for a spinoff.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a choice. I think if you want to do paranormal, creepy, or like monsters or like supernatural stuff, like there's lots of ways you could do it. And like this was just the worst choice in most ways.
Mm-hmm.
And like the romance is usually like kind of like the least interesting part to me of Pretty Little Liars. Like it's fun. Like you and I like the relationships, but like the will they, won't they, love triangle-y things, like not 100% my vibe, because especially in this, you don't know the characters that well.
No.
I'm not invested.
No. Not at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm kind of with you there on all that portion, but I'm interested to see again still what they do with the horror stuff, but I think it really shows in like episodes like episode 4 where it's just like where it's all character moments and it's just like, nah, this isn't exciting. There's not enough here to like really engage me. So,
well,
you know, I'm hoping we just get more hits in terms of like kind of like horror, like, you know, action happening essentially, and it would probably help buoy this. So, well, you can find this podcast on all your audio podcast platforms of choice at Dead Ends. You can also find us on YouTube at dead_ends. You can also write in your questions. Tell us about what did we have people tell us about again? I forget. It was at the beginning of this podcast.
Male legalities.
Male legalities, yes. You can write into deadendspcast, deadendspcast@gmail.com, and you can find that email in all the description boxes on the podcast episode. And you can also find us on Twitter at deadendspodcast, so you can get updates on when episodes go live and the odd meme from me every now and then.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Well, just like Miranda, we're still here.
No, she left.
Oh, right. She got out. Just like Caleb, we're still here. We're going to find out everything.
Unless that wasn't her mom and she's just trapped somewhere else.
That's true. That's probably it.
Okay, love you. Bye.